how rideshare apps transformed the taxi industry. It began quietly, almost invisibly at first. Just a few years back, a new app appeared on smartphones with a simple premise: press a button, get a ride. It was called Uber, and it promised convenience and low prices. At first, most people didn't notice it, not right away. Certainly not the taxi drivers who cruised city streets, lights glowing, looking for fares. But soon, the entire landscape would change forever. In the heart of the bustling city, yellow cabs once ruled the streets like bees in a hive. They lined up in neat rows at airports and bus terminals, horns honking, drivers calling out to one another. Farouk was part of this ecosystem. A taxi driver for 20 years, he knew every corner of the city. The shortcuts that bypassed traffic, the coffee shops that let drivers use the bathroom without buying anything, and the regulars who always needed a ride to work in the early morning hours. Farouk had seen many changes in his time. He remembered when meters went digital and when credit card readers were first installed. He adapted, reluctantly but successfully. But this new technology, this app, was different. It wasn't about meters or payment methods. It was a new way of thinking.
Dad, look at this. You can summon a car from your phone, watch it approach in real time, and pay without even pulling out your wallet.
The first time Farouk heard about AET was from his teenage daughter. She showed him how she could summon a car from her phone, watch it approach in real time, and pay without even pulling out her wallet.
That's just a fad for the young and tech-savvy.
But then, things began to change. He began to see fewer people hailing his cab, even in areas that were once hotspots. Fewer passengers on weekend nights. Fewer business people needing rides during rush hour. Instead, he noticed sleek, unmarked cars with drivers staring at their phones, waiting for their next passenger.
Our earnings are dropping and our shifts are getting longer just to make ends meet.
The company we lease our cabs from isn't helping. They're just raising fees to cover their own losses.
Meanwhile, the news was full of stories about AET and other rideshare companies, about how they were disrupting the industry, providing choice and innovation to consumers.
I decided to join the competition rather than fight it. I sold my medallion, a badge that had once been worth a small fortune, and bought a used car. I signed up with AET, excited by the promise of flexibility and bonuses.
Ahmed talked about how he could choose his own hours, and how in the early days the company gave generous incentives for completing a certain number of rides.
You know, the flexibility is amazing. I can work when I want, and those early bonuses really helped.
But Farouk held out. He had spent decades working the taxi business, saving enough to send his children to college, enough to give his family a stable life. He couldn't just abandon it all for something so uncertain, so volatile.
I've been in this business for decades. It's given my family stability and a future. I can't just leave it all behind for something so unpredictable.
Yet as time went on, he began to feel the strain. His savings dwindled, and every month it became harder to pay the lease on his taxi. The familiar streets of the city seemed foreign now, filled with cars that looked like taxis but weren't. Drivers who weren't professionals, just people trying to make some extra cash.
Every month, it gets tougher to make ends meet. The city I know so well feels different, filled with these new drivers just trying to get by.
The struggle was real and the future uncertain, but the story of Farouk and Ahmed was just beginning to unfold.
All right, Dad. Just tap here and you're all set up for AET.
Finally, after a particularly brutal month, Farouk gave in. His daughter helped him sign up and he started driving his own car for AET.
It's different. I miss the camaraderie of the taxi stand, you know? The sense of being part of something larger.
Now he was alone, competing against thousands of others just like him, all waiting for the next ride request to pop up on their phones. The taxi industry didn't die all at once. It was a slow, painful decline, like a tree losing its leaves, one by one. The bright yellow cabs still existed, but there were fewer of them each year. The medallions that had once been worth hundreds of thousands of dollars were now almost worthless.
I still drive, but it's not the same. The sense of purpose has faded, replaced by an algorithm that decides whether I'm worthy of a fare. I remember the days when passengers would strike up a conversation. I felt like more than just a driver, like I was part of the city's lifeblood.
Now, he was just another car, another dot on a digital map. The rideshare apps hadn't just killed the taxi industry. They had changed the very fabric of what it meant to be a driver. It wasn't about service or experience anymore. It was about efficiency, ratings, and keeping up with technology that moved too fast for people like Farouk. The old ways were gone, replaced by something newer, sleeker, and to many, emptier.
I drive on, but deep down, I know that the city I loved, the job I had given my life to, is gone forever.
Thanks for watching. If you found this story insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about how technology is reshaping our world. At Griot World Info,